here's problems 9 and 10 on the practice tests. I may have skipped one page. I'll try to find that, but let's get these knocked out. Or at least my views of them knocked out. Customers ordered goods with value of $800. Production cost at $600. In what situations should you extend credit? I think this is just a simple expected value problem. Which is just the value of an event times its probability of happening. And so in this case, 600 divided by 800, if there's at least a 75% chance of the person paying you, then it would have a positive return. And since they assume a 0% discount rate, you don't have to worry about that. So the way I'd look at this is if the expected value is going to be greater than 600, so 800 times 0.75 is 600. So as long as expected value, the probability of payment exceeds 70.75 or 75%, 75%, you would make the sale. Incidentally, this whole expected value process I find it really, really useful in all sorts of different venues, not just formal finance problems, but just normal everyday personal finance problems, and even non-finance problems. It's just interesting way of looking at risk. So this one is a little unclear to me, but I'll take it as far as give you what I see it as. I think it's really just a simple calculation. If you have $50 million, you borrow for 1 year at 10%, you're paying $5 million in interest. And if the tax rate's 30%, you have a tax shield of 30%. In other words, that $5 million is going to reduce your taxes by 30%. So that would be $1.5 million. In terms of present value, they don't give you a specific discount rate. So I would, in this case, assume that you can discount the value of the tax shield at the given interest rate. And I think there is some language to that effect in your textbook on adjusted present value, that if you assume that goes up or down in proportion to the value of the project, that you can discount the tax shields at the borrowing rate, not the equity discount rate. In which case, unless the taxes that interest is shielding you from are all paid up front, it would be something less than 1.5 million. So I'm thinking it's that value, but they did say approximately, so maybe they're just trying to get you to get close enough and saying, okay, it's 1.5 million, that's just 1 year, that's not a long period of time, let's just forget about time value money in this case. But presumably, since you're really trying to get to tax savings, and taxes are paid over time, the tax savings are not going to be all at the front end, so you could look at it as it's something a little bit less than 1.5 million. Certainly not that, and it's not $500,000 less than 1.5. Okay, that's it for that one. Okay, going backwards here a little bit, or question 4 on the practice exam. And again, these are all, if this is the final exam, these are, I think, pretty straightforward questions. Capital equipment costing $400,000 today has 0 salvage value. That means you're going to depreciate it down to a 0 value. At the end of 5 years, if straight line is used, meaning you just take this and divide it by 5, so 400,000 divided by shouldn't need a calculator to do that, should I? It's $80,000 a year. And it's straight line, so it's that for each year. What's the book value of equipment after 3 years? So after the end of 3 years, you've taken 80,000 for 3 years, 240,000 less 400,000, 160 is what I would say. Okay. Given the following data for a stock, beta is 0.09, so maybe instead of just going through the math here, take a second to remind ourselves what all these mean. So a stock that has a beta of 1, exactly 1, means it is exactly as volatile or as risky as the average stock. So if a stock has a beta of 1, if the overall stock market goes up 10%, you would expect the value of that stock to go up about 10%. And the stock market goes down 10%, you expect the value of that stock to go down about 10%. Of course, there's not ever perfect correlation, so this would just be, a statistical measurement over a long period of time. So that's what beta means. So right away we see, this stock is a little bit less risky than the overall stock market. Risk-free rate, that's just what the name implies. Typically, U.S. government bonds are used as a proxy for risk-free rate. Usually I see that as 10-year U.S. Treasury bonds. The logic behind using U.S. Treasury bonds are the U.S. economy is the largest economy in the world by a lot of measures, the strongest of the very large economies in the world, and that the U.S. government has essentially unlimited taxing authority. I guess maybe not state property tax, but the U.S. government has a lot of taxing authority. So if the U.S. government ever got in trouble paying its debt, it could always just increase taxes. So that's what's considered a proxy for the risk-free rate. Although in 2008, 2009, some people were debating whether that was a good assumption. And the market rate of return is 14%. So that's, I think what they're saying is the average stock people are expecting a 14% return on the average stock. And the expected rate of return on this stock is 13%. So what you do is you can calculate the market risk premium, which is the market rate of return less the risk-free rate. So 14% less 4, that's 10%. It's the market risk premium. And then you multiply that by beta. So if the market risk premium is 90%, in this case, the risk premium you ought to get for this stock, since it's slightly less volatile, less risky than the average stock, would be 9%. But then you always want at least the risk-free rate. You can never invest in anything if it was less than the risk-free rate. And so magically that comes back to 13%. So my response would be that stock's correctly priced, if I've done my quick math there correctly.